DoorDash just told a half-truth in a very big and loud way. And of course, we're the ones who are going to feel the repercussions. Stick around, I'm going to walk you through what's happening and how it could affect us. What's going on, everybody? I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy, and in this video, we're going to talk about DoorDash, half-truths, and the media eating it up at our expense. If I were to show you my iPhone 6, it would be pretty hard for me to convince you that it's the newest and latest and greatest in technology. Even if you're not an iPhone user, you probably know that Apple has a new iPhone about every 6 months. Now, what if I tried to tell you about the newest, most cutting-edge thing in modern medicine? If you're like me, and the vast majority of, well, everybody, you'd probably just have to take my word for it. What's the difference between those two examples, and how does it relate to DoorDash, or more specifically, us? Well, the phone example is something that most people can relate to. Chances are you either have an iPhone or you know the Apple brand, whereas something medical related is very esoteric and is only going to apply to a small handful of people. Do you see what I'm getting at? Depending on the subject matter, it can be very easy or not so easy to tell a half-truth or a flat-out lie to the general public. If you were to use phrases like peak pay, base pay, or contract violations in a group of non-drivers, chances are pretty good that nobody would have any idea what you're talking about. So, it's a pretty safe assumption that when DoorDash floods the media with their biggest announcement in a decade, that the general public isn't going to know when they're being fed a half-truth. And that's where we're finding ourselves now. Look, whether you love DoorDash or you hate them, there's no denying that they're always changing something. And when they do, it's generally not very good for us. For the next part of this video to make sense, I need to give you a very fast, high-level overview of something that's been playing out in New York City. A group of drivers got together and pressured the city council to impose a minimum wage requirement for gig apps for drivers within the city. A study, not a bunch of studies, but a study, found that drivers in New York City were only averaging $7.09 an hour. And I call bullshit on that, but let's continue. Despite companies like DoorDash pushing back against a minimum wage, it did make it through the city council. I want you to keep in mind that DoorDash did push back against this. That part will be relevant shortly. One of DoorDash's shiny new turds is a program called Earn by Time. And while it's not really new, they're sure playing it off like it is. Now, I want to be clear. DoorDash sent out a press release to a bunch of big media outlets bragging about all these new programs. And some of them actually are new, and a couple of them are pretty cool. But guess what the media ran with? That's right, Earn by Time. DoorDash's fake hourly rate. Okay, now I want you to remember back to the study that said that some drivers are making $7 and change. That study is being referenced in almost every single news article that I read about Earn by Time. So essentially, we had the media step in saying, look at these poor drivers who are only making $7 an hour, but now they're going to make 15 plus tips. Now, the media discussing Earn by Time isn't the biggest deal in the world for drivers, if it's being accurately portrayed. But is it? No. I want to give you an example of another group of people that probably earn a lot less than you think that they do. Did you know that a first officer for a regional airline could make as little as $20 an hour when they first start flying? Considering that they literally have people's lives in their hands, it's pretty disgusting to think about, but it gets worse. Flight attendants and pilots are only paid from wheels up to wheels down, so that hour that they just spent on the ground, they didn't get paid for it. I realize that me making the claim that we as drivers make more than some pilots do is going to be pretty hard to believe, so I'll put a couple of links in the description where you can read about it for yourself. Just like a flight crew on the ground, drivers on Earn by Time aren't always being paid. A true hourly rate is when you're paid a specific amount from 1 hour to the next, whether you're busy or not. But that's not what this DoorDash Frankenstein shit is. So, what happens when some of the largest media outlets in the country start making the claim that drivers are now earning an hourly rate? It's important to note that some articles did get it right, but many didn't. And in fact, I saw a few articles alluding to the idea that all drivers are now making an hourly rate plus tips. On top of the fact that a lot of the media did not get it right, I'm of the opinion that Earn by Time is a total scam. Do you remember me talking about phrases like base pay, peak pay, and contract violations? Out of the media outlets that did get it correct, many of them were using terminology that only drivers would understand. That would be the equivalent of me asking somebody if I could pet their Canis lupus familiaris. Other than making me sound extremely pretentious and like I'm in a Harry Potter movie, I could just ask somebody if I could pet their dog. Freaking Google for the win on that one. Same thing with many of these articles. They're being worded in a way that drivers will understand, but customers just won't. And in my opinion, that's the way that DoorDash wants it. They want to sound shining with people asking as few questions as possible. Now, I want to give you my opinion on how the media's involvement could affect drivers and our tips. It's not your major league ball players, your lawyers, or your doctors that are earning tips. It's typically people in lower wage service jobs. Sure, I'm going to tip a waiter or a waitress every time, but I'm not going to tip the mechanic that just made $50 an hour off of me. Agree with it or not, this is a tipping country, and it's remained that way for a few hundred years. Would I love to see employers paying people a living wage? Sure, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And meanwhile, we're battling articles like this that give customers the assumption that we earn a lot more than we really do. Messaging like that isn't really helping us, is it? True story. A few weeks ago, I was approached by a journalist from a major news outlet wanting my perspective on tipping culture in the United States. I answered every question with complete honesty and transparency and tried to give an accurate representation of what it's actually like to be a driver. Guess how much of what I said made it into the article? None of it. Not one word. I'm not mad at her, but she was clearly looking for a certain angle that I didn't give her. In my opinion, the media is all about 80% blood and 20% smiles. But regardless, they always want to paint the picture from their perspective. So, when the media starts getting it wrong, it can only hurt us. As it is, there's a huge disconnect between drivers and customers when it comes to tipping. In many cases, they could end up spending just as much in fees as they do on food. And on top of that, many of them assume that we make more than we really do, which can lead to less or no tipping at all. If all of that wasn't bad enough, this could exacerbate a problem that already exists. Oversaturation. Things aren't great right now economically. Inflation's crazy, wages aren't going up, and people are feeling the pinch. As a result, there's a ton of people who are looking to make additional money in the form of a gig. I think it's reasonable to assume that if people read articles like this and assume that they're going to make an additional $15 an hour, that we're going to see new drivers. I follow what DoorDash does very closely. Shocker, right? But they've done a few things over the last year that make me strongly suspect that they're inching closer and closer to no tips at all. Programs like Earn by Time exist to get bad orders delivered. Prior to this piece of shit program, DoorDash would have to bonus low, no tip, and high mileage orders heavily just to get them delivered. But with near zero transparency with Earn by Time, they don't have to do that anymore. Matter of fact, it's been nearly a month since I've seen a single no tip order in my market. The college kids sure didn't stop being cheap all of a sudden. And before you read me in the comment section, yes, I'm aware it's summer, but you get my point. I'm not getting no tip orders because the drivers on Earn by Time are getting the no tip orders. Sure. If you're earning by time, you might make a little more than you would have versus base pay, but it doesn't really do you any good if you drove 8 miles for $6, does it? Moving away from Earn by Time, DoorDash is doing something super shitty in Baton Rouge. DoorDash has removed the ability for customers to tip prior to their order being picked up. To compensate for this, DoorDash started offering really good peak pay. But they're also still DoorDash, so the peak pay slowly went away. So now drivers are just seeing a bunch of no-tip orders coming through, hoping that the customer will have the decency to tip them after the delivery is complete. Spoiler alert, most customers aren't. On top of this travesty, DoorDash is now charging the customers in that area an additional fee and claiming that 100% of that fee goes to Dashers in their area. Now, we could sit here and debate all day long whether a $3 to $5 fee is going to make up for the lack of a tip, but that's not the problem. The problem is that fee is not going to the drivers like DoorDash claims it is. At least not every time. Matter of fact, here's a screenshot of an order that one of my subscribers took in Baton Rouge. Shout out to Lily. Thank you for the screenshot. It's important to note, that particular customer did have the decency to add a tip after the delivery, but I want you to pause the video and find that service fee. Don't worry, I'll wait. That's right, it's not there. DoorDash has some explaining to do. Tirade aside, DoorDash is not doing this in Baton Rouge for shits and giggles. They're testing it to see if it would work for them in other markets as well. And if it does, Baton Rouge will not be the only market that sees this travesty. My market was one of the first in the country to get the Diamond program, months before most markets got it. That program was supposed to last only a couple of months, but now it's seemingly permanent and almost everywhere. Same thing with early scheduling. They started limiting that last summer in a very small handful of markets, and now, seemingly, they're rolling that out to a more national scale as well. History has shown that when DoorDash wants to do something bad for the driver, they generally start in 1 or 2 markets and work up from there. And that's why I believe that DoorDash is slowly tiptoeing into the realm of no tipping whatsoever. After all, their fees are really high, and they would love to avoid the additional sticker shock of a tip. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. Well, that is going to about wrap up the video. If it resonated with you, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the RideShare Guy. You can find my videos here every Tuesday. If you enjoyed this video, you may also enjoy this video where I talk about the biggest mistake that new and experienced drivers make. I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy. Take care.